This episode of Fluid Power Forum is sponsored by IFP Motion Solutions Incorporated, the leader at engineering electronics into fluid power distribution. IFP spans the 13 central states from Minnesota to Texas. For more information, visit ifpusa.com. Welcome to Fluid Power Forum, a podcast of the National Fluid Power Association. I'm your host, Eric Lanke, and it's my job to interview interesting people who are moving fluid power technology forward. If you'd like to be part of the show, you can follow us on LinkedIn. We'll get lots of updates there about the show and other things going on with NFPA. We're on LinkedIn at the National Fluid Power Association. And make sure to share those interesting and innovative uses of fluid power with our social media hashtag, #OnlyFluidPowerCan. Also, please subscribe to our show. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on all the other popular podcatching services. Wherever you find us, go ahead, subscribe, and then give us a quick rating. Those ratings really do help promote the show and allow more and more of our friends in the industry to join in on these important conversations. Joining me for this discussion are three people who really have their fingers on the pulse of the industry. I'll introduce them and ask them to say hello and tell us a little bit about themselves before we dive into the discussion. So first up is Alastair Hayfield of Interact Analysis. Alastair, welcome to Fluid Power Forum.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much, Eric. So I am a vice president at Interact Analysis. Interact Analysis is a market intelligence company looking at commercial vehicles, industrial automation, and robotics and warehouse automation. I have been looking at various different industrial markets for the last 20 years and spending the last 7 or 8 looking at off-highway and looking in depth at powertrain technologies, hydraulics, digitalization, and lots of other really interesting topics. So I'm excited to talk with everyone today and give some perspective and color on what we've seen in 2025 and what we think will happen next year as well.
Yeah, looking forward to the discussion. Glad to have you on the show. Next up is Mary Gannon from Fluid Power World. Mary, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Eric. I'm Mary Gannon. I am the editor-in-chief of Fluid Power World. We are an industry publication, several websites and magazine that covers the technologies of fluid power. So we cover hydraulics, industrial, and mobile hydraulics, as well as pneumatics. Very technology focused. I've been covering the industry for about 20 years, which is still wild to me all these years later.
Has it really been 20 years, Mary? Wow. It's like,
I think you and I came in around the same time, Eric.
Yeah, January is my 19th anniversary here at NFPA. So yeah, that's crazy. All right. Let's put that aside for a second. And third up, last but not least, certainly is Sara Jensen from Power and Motion magazine. Sara, welcome.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate you having me. I'm Sara Jensen. I'm the editor of Power and Motion, which is a publication focused on hydraulic, pneumatic, and electric motion system technologies and all the various applications that they're used in. I've been with the publication, it'll be almost 4 years next year. And prior to that, I spent 11 years at a publication for engineers that developing heavy duty on and off highway mobile equipment.
Right.
So I've been covering hydraulics and heavy vehicles for a long time too. I think I'm coming up on 15 years total now with so I'm not far behind you guys.
Well, we've always say that you can't leave the fluid power industry. Once you enter it, it's very sticky in a good way.
Yeah.
So
Yes, agreed.
Well, great. Well, welcome, and I'm glad to have all three of you on the show for this discussion today. And I'm anxious to hear from each of you, what your thoughts are on some of the biggest stories and trends in the industry that you've all seen or have been paying attention to over this weird calendar year 2025. So let's just start with that as kind of the open-ended question. Maybe I'll just pick on people. Mary, can we start with you? What do you think is the biggest story in the industry from 2025?
Sure. I feel like efficiency is kind of one of the top things that we talked a lot about in 2025.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to keep talking about it a lot. And it kind of comes down to the mobile machine manufacturers are really focusing on trying to come up with these innovative powertrains. So at Bauma, we had a lot of companies that instead of doing electrification, they started putting out some of these hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, which is pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But whether it's electric or hydrogen or hybrid or straight up diesel, the fluid power companies really have to focus on efficiency and weight. And so I think there's a lot of product releases and technology releases that kind of went into that. I know at Bauma, Parker, Hannafin, Bosch Rexroth, and Danfoss, they all released very compact, highly efficient pumps and motors in that realm to kind of meet the needs of those new machines. And I think that was probably one of the big focuses of the industry is the efficiency.
Yeah.
And I think another thing, and I'm sure we'll talk tariffs and things like that, but I think more from my side, I think there's been a lot of industry consolidation continuing, not huge, but I feel like especially on the distributor side, there's a lot of movement of bigger companies kind of acquiring the smaller companies. And I think we're going to continue to see that as well as the distributors kind of shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, that the efficiency trend as you're describing, as I reflect back on, we've done a lot of episodes on the show that have been focused on some of those new technologies that you described, coming out to help deal with that. As those mobile machines electrify, the need for more efficient hydraulics is there, and it sounds like the industry is rising to that occasion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I picked on 3 companies. There's so many more, but those were 3 that came out at Bauma that kind of stood out to me over the year.
Yeah.
Because they all came out at the same time.
The listeners should check their podcast feed. They'll hear all kinds of episodes from all other member companies. Sarah, how about you? Do you agree with what Mary is saying, or do you have other thoughts about the biggest stories from the year?
Oh, I agree. Efficiency has definitely been at the forefront on the technology side this year. It's always been important, but I think it's just really has taken off, like Mary said, with all the changes in powertrain technologies, and even on the industrial side, just people wanting to be more, reduce their energy use and their operational costs. Like efficiency has just really been important. I would also say, has been hard. Mary briefly mentioned it, but tariffs and policy changes it's been one, because we cover a lot on both the technology and the, kind of trends that are impacting the market.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get by this year without at least talking a little bit about tariffs and various policy changes, less emphasis on electrification a bit this year, which, maybe push people, electrification was such a big push these last few years, and it's still important and still a focus for many, but you felt that people back off a little bit too from that. But yeah, you had tariffs kind of just making business uncertain for people. Another one I've been kind of watching is just that big boom in data centers that we're all seeing, and how that's, you have the construction equipment that's going to be needed to build those facilities and their infrastructure, so that maybe will be help with construction equipment demand, and then demand for hydraulic and other components that are used in those machines. And there's also some use of fluid power and other technologies for cooling and automation systems in those facilities. So I know there's a lot of pros and cons to data centers, but it's an area that to keep watching, and has been kind of interesting to see it just kind of take off a bit this year.
Yeah, I won't mention names, but I was speaking with an NFPA member company representative at one of the conferences we all attend, and he was telling me that the play that they have with data centers is like the bright spot in their portfolio right now. That they that's really paying everybody's salaries at this point. The work that they're doing there, so it's huge.
Yeah.
All right. And Alastair, how about you? What's your sense of the biggest stories out of the industry this year?
Well, the best thing about going third is that Mary and Sarah have already done a great job of talking about what the main trends are, and I would echo those. We have seen a pullback from hydrogen in particular as a powertrain technology.
Interesting. Yeah.
Less focus around electrification, although there are still pockets depending on region or depending on application, where we still see some highlights for that. And yes, efficiency is becoming much more important, and I think that is the kind of pragmatic approach that a lot of OEMs are taking, in terms of where they want to take their technology, and it is an enabler for electrification, but also, actually more importantly, it's something that they can sell now on existing machines. The price of fuel is very high. Input costs for farmers are very high, and anything that OEMs can do to improve the efficiencies is something that I think is well received. And so that is a benefit to companies in the fluid power market who are developing technologies. Maybe more broadly, we see a real surge from Chinese OEMs coming out of China into global markets, and I think that's been one real standout trend in 2025. It maybe is less prevalent in North America than it is elsewhere, but it is something that the Chinese OEMs are being very aggressive, expanding, and that brings changes to market shares. They tend to bring their own supply chain with them, and that will be interesting for how kind of existing tier ones sort of compete in that environment. Yeah. And then I guess last but not least is, it really has been a quite dramatic year for kind of mergers and acquisitions, right? We've just seen Doosan Bobcat take on Wacker Neuson, but on the supplier side, we saw Parker pick up Curtis. Dana's off-highway businesses moved to Allison earlier in the year, so there's been lots of activity there that's changed the supplier landscape, and I think will start to shake out in the next 12 to 18 months in terms of maybe new relationships, new products, integrations, and it's an exciting time to be in the industry. Yeah. I think to see all of these changes.
I'm curious. All great information there, Alastair, but both you and Sara talked about a pullback, if you will, on electrification, or at least a de-emphasis. And what do you guys mean by that? I guess, are you talking about the OEMs are less emphasizing new electrification technologies, or what's your perspective there?
You want to go first, Sara?
Sure. I guess for me, from what I've been seeing, and even from talking with people, like I was at it's a little more on the passenger vehicle side, but there's people on the heavy hydraulics and like heavy vehicle side. It's a show called the Battery Show, in Detroit. And when I was walking the show this year, like it's really grown over the last few years. But then this year, people that I was talking to, they're like, oh, it seemed a little bit slower than previous years. So that's one instance, but also like Mary was kind of mentioning before, when I was at Bauma earlier this year, there were a lot of electric machines, but it also just wasn't quite as much of an emphasis from some of the OEMs and component suppliers. Like the last few years, you've had so many news releases of like, oh, we've got this electrification electric machine, or we have these components or things, and it's still being worked on, and I think it's still an important area, but it kind of seems like we're kind of at this middle stage of where a lot of the like initial work that needed to be done has happened, and now they're kind of, what are the next steps to kind of bring, enable those heavier duty machines, or kind of better optimize the systems and the machines. It just hasn't been as much in the forefront of some of the news and things that, at least that I've been seeing, and from being at shows and stuff this year.
Well, one of the things that I hear from, a lot of our members, that they're concerned about is which different mobile machines are going to be electrifying,
Yeah.
and and maybe I can bring Alastair in. Is there a sense of that there's a pause in that evolution right now, that they've kind of figured out the platforms on which it makes sense to electrify, or do you think that trend's going to continue on different kinds of machines going forward?
It gets a little bit messy.
Yeah.
I think is the honest answer. That I think outside of maybe Northern Europe or China, there's very little that's driving the market to go electric. There's no mandates, there's no funding, and so you're sort of reliant on sustainability or customer innovation. People looking to adopt a different solution and try something. From a machine perspective, obviously the compact machinery is easier to electrify. That said, we still actually see some decent path towards electrified solutions in heavier machines, based on the particular application or duty cycle. So that some mining applications, it makes good sense. And so I think OEMs are being just much more realistic. The demand is not there. They have the platforms or the technologies, and they can deploy it and scale those solutions when they need to, ramp volumes. But they're just not seeing the demand, I think, that they perhaps thought there would be 3-4 years ago from the market. And so I think that's part of the de-emphasis and why we see maybe them looking at alternative fuels, so looking at biodiesel, HVO, something like that, or looking at hybridization or efficiency as a way of promoting sustainability.
Yeah, interesting. We'll continue with the show in just a moment, but first let me share some exciting news about our Fluid Power Forum podcast. We're launching Fluid Power Forum Plus, a premium listener membership offering exclusive content and special event opportunities for our most dedicated listeners. When you sign up for free on the NFPA website, you'll be able to unlock exclusive episodes, live recordings, transcripts, and invitations to private networking events, each offering even greater insights into interesting and innovative applications of fluid power technology. The first of our special events is now being planned for the NFPA Technology Conference being held at the ConExpo ConAg trade show in March of 2026. Fluid Power Forum Plus members will receive discounted registration for the conference, plus an exclusive invitation to attend our live taping of the podcast there, and a members-only networking reception following that taping. This will be a huge opportunity to gain insights into the innovations happening in fluid power technology and to meet up with fellow listeners and build your network. And that's just the start. More exclusive benefits will be announced soon. To register, head over to nfpa.com/plus. That's nfpa.com/plus. Let's switch gears a little bit, and I'll ask each of you in turn about the undercovered stories of the year, if you will. Like, what is there some secret thing that happened that didn't get a lot of coverage that you think is important? Sara, can I start with you on that one? What's the hidden gem of the year?
Sure. I don't know if it's quite secret, but maybe there's lead times have always been a little bit of a tricky thing for people, and especially with COVID, people are still kind of working on getting out of those supply chain issues that they've we're dealing with. And I've heard it's getting better, but it still could take several weeks to get a component or a system. And so I know there were at least a couple of companies and that I spoke to this year who are like kind of putting forth some initiatives to help reduce those lead times. One that comes to mind is a company called Mako Hydraulics, who has kind of put together like integrated plug and play development kit to not only help and make it easier for those who are developing systems to do so, but also they're working to bring lead times down to, like, want to say they want to deliver within 4 weeks or less. And just by working with their suppliers and just having the technology on hand, and so that people can get developing faster and get their own technologies out into the market faster. That's been one of the, it wasn't always talked about as much this year, but it was one that kind of came to mind for me.
Yeah, it's like the supply chain has still not fixed itself, right?
Yeah.
There's still struggle.
There's still some tweaks. Yeah, there's
Exactly.
still some tweaks that need to be made.
Mary, what are your thoughts? Do you have the story that you wrote that nobody paid any attention to, and you think they should, or?
I mean, two things that kind of come to mind. One, and I think people do pay attention to it, but I just feel like it's something that we always need to keep talking about, is the importance of contamination control. We did a lot of coverage on that this year, and it was going to be sort of a blockbuster issue. We were going to get all these inputs, and I think people are just so busy. We didn't get the input we wanted on it, but contamination is obviously the biggest foe of a fluid power system. So anytime we can talk about that, it's really important. And kind of along those lines, because the people are important in contamination. And I do feel like AI has taken such a big front seat in all the stories, but I do feel like we really need to keep talking about the people in this industry, the people that are keeping the machines running, the people that are designing the machines. We had a lot of series on the brain drain and how we can kind of combat that. We need to make sure that we are maintaining our machinery and our systems well, but as more and more people retire, it's going to continue to be a problem. So continuing to figure out ways that we can help the industry educate its new people coming in, and kind of harvest the knowledge of some of these people that have been working in the industry 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
It's going to be crucial. It already is, but it's going to be more so crucial in the next few years. And not on the fluid power side, but our sister publication Design World started a little video series called Mind Over Machine along these lines. And they're just talking to different engineers or experts in the motion control industry about how can a human being solve a problem better than AI ever can? And so far, the few that I've watched, because I think it's only about 3 or 4 issues that have come out, they're fascinating, and they really are great. So the importance of the people, I think, is a big thing we need to keep talking about.
Yeah, it seems like that's every year end. There's a discussion about that particular trend, Mary. Not AI per se, but just the workforce issue, right? So, and I guess I would agree that it's becoming more and more acute. So, Alastair, how about you? Are there undercovered things from your perspective that are worth calling out?
I mean, maybe it's not, undercovered here, but I feel like there is a huge amount of innovation in this industry that sort of goes overlooked sometimes, right? And I feel like all of the kind of tools exist, be it efficiency systems or automation or sensors and electronics to solve a lot of the problems that OEMs face, end users face from a lack of workforce, or wanting to reduce fuel costs or improve uptime. And I go to conferences and trade shows, and or I hear from end users, and I think that solution exists. I've seen a company demonstrating that or selling it, and it sometimes feels that sometimes I don't know, we need to shout more or something. I don't know, but that's maybe my observation. Is there's so much innovation in this industry, and I think sometimes maybe we don't see it enough.
Yeah, I wanted, that's a great segue. I wanted to ask each of you about the most innovative thing or the biggest innovation trend that you've seen in the year so far. But let me just quick react to what you're saying there, Alastair. You know, I so appreciate that comment. One of the projects that NFPA does on a regular basis is called our technology roadmap, where we lay out what is going on at the OEM machine level, technology speaking, and then how fluid power needs to respond or react to make sure that fluid power plays well with those customer technology strategies. And we just completed one of those refresh cycles, and what was interesting about it from my point of view this time around was that usually it's always about R&D. Like fluid power needs to create new things to do to get better at doing things, and almost universally it was about, no, these technologies exist, they're just not being used in the marketplace. And we need, what we need to do is to better get the customers to buy, if you will, the new technologies that they already have in hand. So I guess I'm hearing the same thing that you just described in that regard. But let's talk about that innovation piece. So who wants to go first with what is the best or most impactful innovation that we've seen in the industry this year?
I can jump in here, Eric, and I think we got to talk about digitalization and automation, AI. Obviously, we talked a little bit about AI, but I really do think that we're going to see a lot more of this coming. A lot more, like we just kind of said, advanced sensor tech. Festo just released a AI-enabled monitoring and predictive maintenance system for its pneumatics technologies. Danfoss is always releasing new technologies into its automation platforms. They released geofencing this year, and they're kind of one of the big experts with that autonomous machinery in the mobile space. And I do feel like, with the sensors, I saw something from Tatiana Minov over in Finland, and kind of talking about the importance of the sensing tech and how it really needs to evolve on these autonomous machines, because when you don't have an operator, you don't have somebody who has that daily feel of a machine, how it runs, what it sounds like, what it looks like. And so the sensors are going to be really key in that predictive maintenance, predictive failure mode, to make sure that they are at the top of the line. So that innovation, I think, is definitely going to be a big focus in the next year or two as we move more towards these automated machines.
Alastair or Sara, any thoughts on innovations in the year?
I can jump on that. I guess I would add, in kind of in conjunction with what Mary was saying, just the amount of smart, kind of compact and smart technology that's coming into the market these days. Electronics like sensors and others have really advanced, and they're being integrated in. You have a small hydraulic valve. Bosch Rexroth had one that came out earlier this year that had it's embedded electronics on the small hydraulic valve. And Festo's been doing a lot with piezoelectric technology and their pneumatic components. Just all that work to make components smarter so they can be more precise and operate more efficiently and work within those automated systems, both on the mobile and the industrial side. It's been interesting to see how far along some of that has come and where it will all keep going.
Great. Smart systems. Yeah, that's increasingly that's not just a market need, but it's a technology that's coming to the forefront. Alastair, what are your thoughts?
I think one that stands out for me, and actually it's something that we're sort of looking at the moment and have a lot of questions from, is e-pump technology. And I think Mary mentioned already at the start of the podcast, Bosch and Danfoss and others who have got this type of solution, and it's that first step to the kind of second generation of electrified machine, where you've not just essentially bolted an electric motor to a hydraulic pump and, winging a prayer and it'll be okay. It's a defined solution. It's one housing. It's very efficient. It has much greater precision of control. And that for us is quite exciting because number one, that opens up distributed architecture and efficiency. It's not just an electrification solution. This is something that can work on an internal combustion engine machine. So that's probably one product category where we're quite excited to see how that gets deployed, and we would expect there being a fairly good market opportunity for that product.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more. That idea of distributed systems. I mean, it's really a revolution in how system architectures in the fluid power industry have been thought of before. So, if people don't know what we're referring to, this is no longer having a single pump driving multiple actuators through a valve bank. This is putting, again, one of those e-pumps at every axis, or every place of motion that you need on the machine, and really having a distributed fluid power system out there at the point of actuation. Am I describing that right? I'm not the engineer in the room sometimes, so that's what we're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so those e-pumps that you're describing, Alastair, that they've, what I'm hearing you say is that they've taken a major step forward technology-wise in terms of their either the reliability or their ability to perform effectively. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, it's that idea of power when you need it.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to be driving a larger hydraulic pump for a system that doesn't need it. You can turn on that power when you need it, and then it's much more precise as well. And that's something that's going to be key to automation and autonomy. So coming back to, if you're not going to have somebody in these machines, or you're going to operate them remotely, you need to know very, very precisely what it's doing. And so this is a kind of solution that really does, it opens up lots of very, very interesting possibilities for machines.
Yeah, great. Well, I realize that I probably have time for one more question for each of you on our podcast here today. So why don't we take a turn and start to look forward to 2026? What is it that you think our listeners should be watching for or paying attention? Like, what are some of the big stories? If we come together a year from now, what are we going to be talking about as the big stories of 2026? Can I pick on Sara to go first with that one?
Sure.
All right.
Sure. So for me, I know we've talked about it several times now, but I think just that continued emphasis on efficiency and built-in intelligence within components and machines, I think that's really just gonna just continue to amp up next year. We've ConExpo in March. I'm looking forward to seeing what's all going to be on display there this year. I mean, Bauma was full of a lot of great stuff, and there was some interesting technology released at Agritechnica, big agriculture show last month. I'm still digging through some of that info, but with ConExpo, and we have shows like Automate and Pack Expo next year as well, that always have some really good technology on the pneumatic side, especially where there's so much automation and built-in intelligence types of systems. And I'm just intrigued to see what all will come from it, and hopefully it'll be a little better year for everyone in general too, and it'll help give a little bit more excitement for things.
Little sales up a little bit, right, is what we're looking for in 26.
Yeah.
Right. Alastair, what's your perspective? What are we going to be talking about a year from now about 26?
Yeah, I mean, to follow on from what Sara said, I think maybe some optimism that 2026 will have been a better year than 25, but both in terms of sales and just maybe a little bit of calmness less tariffs and less panic in the supply chain could be good, right? So hopefully that's what we're talking about at the end of 26. I would say that it is, in some ways, if you look back over the last 5 years, I mean, I know COVID plays into that, but we get to the territory where it's a little bit unpredictable, the market. I think, there is still potential for consolidation. There is still potential for innovation. So it's a little bit difficult. I would like to hope that there is a strong showing on innovation at ConExpo in a couple of months. I'd really like to see some of what I've seen at Bauma or Agritechnica picked up and shown in the North American market as well.
Yeah.
I think that would be something that would be nice to talk about.
ConExpo is so often a bellwether, and it seems like it certainly will be for 26 as well. It'll be an exciting show to be at. All right, Mary, bring us home. What's your prediction for 26?
Well, obviously, like everybody said, I think the recovering market and ConExpo are kind of going to sort of launch us into the year. But I do think technology-wise, I think there's going to be some new focuses. I just published an article from Bosch Rexroth about their mobile hydraulics update for the year. And one of the things that he said was a focus on software development. And I do think as we go into that more digital AI world, I do think we're going to see a lot more software innovations, a lot more releases this year. We just did a webinar on the design world side, and I was just kind of blown away by the amount of software innovations that are out there in the motion control space. So it's just going to keep coming. And also just, I just think it's going to be a positive year. I think we are going to be a little more optimistic, like Alastair said, and just kind of keep going. And hopefully we don't have any crazy wrenches thrown in from the media side that get everybody all stirred up. So hopefully that we can just kind of focus on the positive market growth and the new innovations coming. It'll be exciting.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap things up then for this episode of Fluid Power Forum. My very special thanks to Alastair Hayfield, Mary Gannon, and Sara Jensen, who have been my guests on the show. If you want to connect with any of them, we're going to put links to their email addresses in the show notes, and I'm sure they welcome any reach outs from podcast listeners. Remember, if you like our show, and I hope you do, follow us on LinkedIn. You'll find us there at the National Fluid Power Association. And make sure to keep sharing those interesting and innovative uses of fluid power with our hashtag #OnlyFluidPowerCan. It's a great way for you to tell us about the kind of topics you'd like to hear discussed on the show. Fluid Power Forum is a podcast of the National Fluid Power Association. I'm your host, Eric Lanke, reminding you to join us next time in the forum.